Yeah. I remember when we was, my mother said to me, come on Michael, she said there's an air raid. She said get down the shelter. And you know, when you're kids you're that tired and then, oh, I don't want to get out of bed,
teddy bear with
I'm tired. And she said, come on, just get down the shelter, now there's an air raid on. We got down there and we went down to the shelter in the back garden.
Wow.
This was probably around about January or February, it's freezing cold. Got down the shelter.
What year? What year?
Could have been round about 1943, something like that.
Wow.
42, 43. And I got out of the shelter and I looked up and I could see all these searchlights beaming around. And also they locked onto this plane and they shot it down. And I could see the plane disintegrating. And you could see the wings floating down through the sky.
You can actually remember that?
I remember all that, yeah. Yeah.
And then the doodlebug, but that's not a plane, that wasn't a doodlebug.
Oh no, it was, obviously it must have been a German plane.
That got hit?
They got hit, yeah. And then when we were living in Portsmouth, because my gran suffered with very badly with rheumatoid arthritis, she would never leave the bungalow. And we went down to the shelters, and when we got back to the bungalow, she said that she had a visitor at the house, and it turned out to be a German pilot that had parachuted down, and he knocked on the door, and he said to my gran, he put his hand out and he said, "Coppers, please, coppers." Well, she didn't know whether he meant the police or whether they meant pennies. she said, I'll shove some money in his hand and tell him to clear off.
And did he?
That was it, yeah, he went.
Wow.
And that was your granny?
That was my granny, yeah.
And what do you remember about the doodlebugs?
Yeah, I remember going down the shelters. There was an air raid, and my mum packed the pram with the blankets and the sandwiches. She made sandwiches and packed the blankets into the pram. And
you had no idea how long you'd have to be down there.
And we'd go off. The air raid warden came down to our little shelter, which was a galvanised shelter in the back garden. He pulled the old sack away from me. He said, "Come on, you lot," he said, "you've got to go down the public shelters." He said, "The bombing's getting too bad now." So off we'd go, we'd take the pram and we'd walk up the road to the main shelters, which was underground. And
what were the shelters called? They were called...
what, the air raid shelters?
They had a name for them, not Wellingtons or...
This is all good.
No, you're talking about the Anderson shelters.
Andersons, that's
yeah, well that was the ones that we had in the garden.
What were they called? Anderson?
Anderson, yeah, Anderson shelters. I don't know what they called it. The other ones were like all made of concrete tunnels that you went down a sloping path down underground, and of course that was all covered over with earth and whatever. Yeah, and as I was going down to the shelter, you could see this doodlebug coming along and just making this horrible noise, and you could see the flames coming out the back. All of a sudden the engine stopped and it dipped, and then it went wherever and bombed one of the houses not far away from where we were.
Did you ever lose any family?
Pardon?
Did you ever lose any family?
Oh, I didn't lose any family, no.
Friends?
Not that I know of, no.
That's brilliant.
But when we got down, it got so bad, the bombing, that they decided that all the kids would have to be evacuated. So this lady doctor quickly gave us a quick going over for the stethoscope, you know, with medical.
And said, "You're fit, you're still breathing."
We jumped on these double-decker buses and took us down to this railway station, and we were waiting for the train to come in, and I remember I think it was a policeman saying, "I wish they'd get these kids out of the way." He said, "You know, it's getting too bad now with the bombing."
Wow.
Anyway, we jumped on the train, and as our train just got out the station, a bomb dropped on the road outside the station. So we were lucky really to be alive. And then we got to a place called Oswestry in North Wales, and we were taken into a big assembly hall. And we couldn't believe it, because on the tables it was all lovely, you know, jellies and bemonges and ice cream and you name it. You know, because in London you wouldn't see anything like this in the war.
How many was there of you, or how many people were?
Lots, quite a few. I can't remember the number, but there was quite a lot of us kids. Yeah, and when we got into this hall, and the lady came up to me, and my sister Valerie was sitting next to me, and this lady came up and she says, "Oh, hello." She said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Michael." And she said, "Is this your sister?" I said, "Yes, that's Valerie." So she said, and where, you know, asked us where we come from and so forth.
And yet your sister Valerie was the bigger one than you, the older one, yeah. Which was still alive.
Yeah. And she said to me, would you like to come and stay with me? So I said, well, yes, okay. And she said, call me Auntie Eva. Her name was Mrs. House, in actual fact.
What was her name?
Mrs. House. But
and where did she live?
She lived in Oswestry, in Oswestry, and anyway, she took me home, and I had a bath, went to bed, and she came upstairs with a glass of milk and some strawberries and cream, which was very nice. And then within probably about half an hour later, there was a knock on the door, and she said, "Are you awake, Michael?" And I said, "Yes." So she said, "I've got somebody here to see you." And it was my sister, who I thought that I'd never see again until after the war. But she lived along the road, and she was staying with with Mr. House, the brother. Oh. They both lived on the same estate, so she stayed with the brother and Mr. House and his wife, and I stayed with them. And then, anyway, we lived there for a while, and then Auntie Eva, she was a private nurse to Lord Trevor, who lived in a very large estate. It was more like a castle more than anything. Lord Trevor. The Trevors, they had 2 sons and a daughter, and they had their own dairy farm. And she said to me, she was a private nurse to the Lord Trevor, and she said, "Would you like to come and live at Brinkennel?" So naturally I agreed, and we went. Do
you get strawberries and cream?
They had a very big staff. They had umpteen gardeners. I know for a fact they had about 6 or 7 maids. The chauffeur, lots of gardeners, and then there was a butler, a chauffeur, and the 2 sons there. One's name was Darwin, and there was Edwin, and there was Peggy, the adopted daughter. She was a barrister. She had a good job, and stayed there for probably around about 18 months, 2 years nearly, before I came back to Carshalton.
Wow. Did you get strawberries and cream there?
Oh, right, yeah. And that's for fact, we lived in the old part of the house, of the mansion, whatever it was. I got caught in one of their rooms. It was a bit like Buckingham Palace, massive great big room with big oil paintings of Charles II and, you know, Elizabeth I, and I got caught in there by one of the staff, and wanted to know what I was doing.
And what happened?
I just got told off and just got out.
Mischief child.
Yeah. They had their own shrubbery and stables and dairy farm.
Did you work there? Did you have to do chores?
Oh no, well I was only young at the time, and we went to the village school in Oswestry. We went to a church hall. We didn't have a proper school. It was a hall, and we'd have one class in the hall. We'd have one class in one corner of the hall, and other classes in the other. usually like 4 classes in one hall.
Wow.
And no walls, no dividing walls.
Oh no, no.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. I love that. I'm going to treasure this.
Did
I think you're amazing.